Consequences. It seems there finally are some consequences when you look at just went down. What went down with the head of the NSA and a few more intel folks along the way. We're going to get into all of that, you guys. Plus Leticia James. Ooh, she's at it again. She just can't help herself for some reason. That lovely woman. We're going to look at some new sound. She's sort of, I guess, kind of masochistic in some way, because I hate to break to her, but like, it's not going to fly, okay? Leticia, game over, okay? He won. And we all know what you were up to. We're going to talk about the gold cards, and we're going to talk about this market sell-off. I'll tell you what the market is missing in all of this. But we begin today. Hello, everyone. I'm Trish. Good to see you. Always, always good to see you, including so many familiar faces. If you're just joining us for the first time, please make sure that you subscribe, share, like, make a comment, all that good stuff. We are coming to you live right now on this Friday. We have some breaking news to get to. Donald Trump is firing the head of the NSA. This is just amazing. So everybody was like asking questions that I was asking right here on the show, right? How is it that you could have such a scandal with Signalgate and no one be held responsible? This is a big deal, right? I mean, how exactly did this all go down? Let's go back in time. Just to, what was it? A few weeks ago, you had Pete Hegseth, Mike Waltz, you had the head of the CIA, John Radcliffe, you had Tulsi Gabbard, all of them on a discussion chat on Signal. And at some point, Pete said, okay, like, these things are going to be firing off and this is what's going to happen. It was actually a very successful mission, I should point out, unlike Afghanistan. Very, very successful. But what was weird about this whole thing is that somehow a reporter from The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, who, by the way, does the left's bidding any single time they want, he was on this text chain. And you kind of had to wonder, like, how did that happen? It was something that came up on a recent episode on Fox with Laura Ingraham when she asked Mike Waltz, who allegedly created this. Well, apparently a staffer did. But he created this text chain on Signal. And she's like, how does this happen? Like, how do you add a guy like Jeffrey Goldberg into the system? It doesn't make sense. And it's why, actually, the NSA should be held accountable. Anyway, let's go to Mike Waltz trying to explain it, and he's scratching his head, too. I don't know.
What staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So your staffer did not put his contact information.
But
how did it end up in your phone?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but that's a pretty big problem.
That's what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then somehow it gets sucked in.
Someone sent you that
it gets sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was on the chat?
So the person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that? What person?
Well, I'm not. Look, okay. Laura, I take responsibility. I built the group.
Okay.
So but look, that's the part that we have to figure out, and that's the part that embarrassing, yes, but Pete and I are veterans. We know these operations. He has been an excellent Secretary of Defense, and this was an operation that, I mean, it amazes me. I guess the Democrats were fine to leave all the sea lanes shut down. We're fine to have destroyers fired on dozens of times by this terrorist group, and fine to have Iran keep supplying them missiles. That was okay. The president takes decisive action. And now we're seeing some real success in taking down their air defenses, opening the sea lanes, taking out their leadership. We don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about this.
Well, there's a reason for that. Okay, so don't kid yourself. Like, this just doesn't mysteriously happen. Laura's asking the right questions. Like, how? How is it that Jeffrey Goldberg, who you claim you've never even talked to, Mike Waltz, how would he wind up on that chain? So you guys get it, right? You get your contacts on your phone, and then you're on Signal. Now, interestingly, John Radcliffe told us in the Intel hearings, that Biden's CIA said, here you go, Signal is the safest thing you can use. So they were using it. Maybe they shouldn't have been using it, but they were using it, and they were then transferring it over to the Trump team. So Mike Waltz has these contacts in his phone, and apparently his staffer put together this text chain, but I don't buy, that's too easy, okay? It's way too easy to say, okay, we're gonna blame the staffer. I know some of you guys are all looking into him and you're wondering about him, but I think it's a little too easy. What I'm concerned about is that there's some kind of internal spying op going on, because there's people that maybe aren't so loyal to the president, and they want to make sure, okay, we know at all times what's going on. And then there's also people amongst that group that really, really don't like him. So if you really don't like him and you want to try and affect the situation, I'm hypothesizing here, okay? So we know he got rid of the head of the NSA. We have some inkling as to why, including some of Laura Loomer's reporting, which I'll get to in a second. But if you think about this, aren't you a little bit worried the NSA can crack anything? And then suddenly they're in your Signal? And why are they in the Signal? I'm left with a lot of questions. And to me, you know what this smacked of? A setup. From the very beginning, I said, somebody set them up. I mean, you just don't pick Jeffrey Goldberg out of the blue. If you really want to, if it was actual hackers or something, then you'd probably have somebody in Iran or somebody in Russia or somebody in China doing all this. But it struck me as, okay, we're going to take them down. We got them. Pete said something he shouldn't have, and so we are guns blazes going after him. And so Donald Trump's onto it, right? Which is why you see this guy here, the NSA director and Cyber Command Chief, Timothy Howe, being fired. Because, someone's head's got to roll after all, and it's not going to be Pete, because the president wants Pete there, and he's already expressed his support for Pete. He's expressed his support for Mike Waltz, for John Radcliffe, you name it, Tulsi Gabbard. So who's it going to be? Well, what about the guy that's supposed to be in charge of all the cybersecurity? I mean, if they believe that this was a hack and Elon's team is actually looking into it, Elon knows a thing or two about technology. If they believe that this was somehow a hack, then maybe there is some responsibility that he bears. I suspect that this is what the president fears. And so, yes, Tim Haw has been fired. Of course, that's not what the Democrats want. They're out there saying, we got to get rid of Pete. We got to get rid of Pete Hegseth. It's all his fault. Here's Senator Kelly. I want to show you moments ago.
Mr. President, Pete Hegseth needs to resign. And if he won't, the president should fire him. No accountability sends the wrong message. Now, I asked the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, and the CIA Director Radcliffe directly in a hearing. I asked them, was there discussions of targets in Yemen? And the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, said yes. And that's a big deal. And I also asked, would they approve that chat for public release? Neither would say yes. And that tells you all you need to know. If anyone, from the most junior enlisted service member to a 4-star admiral, had done this, they'd be facing real consequences. They'd be fired.
Okay. So, he wants a head on a platter, right? All the Democrats want someone's head on the platter. Right now they want Donald Trump's, and they're blaming the whole market sell-off on Donald Trump, et cetera, and the tariffs. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But here's the reality. They're like, okay, we got a live one. They may have set this whole thing up. I'm not kidding, because of all people, Jeffrey Goldberg, really, and of course he's echoing the same thing that Mark Kelly's just saying. He's like, you got to get rid of these guys because they put me on this text chain. He's doing everything they would have wanted. Right? He's someone who's innocuous enough. He's an American. He's not going to take it to the Iranians or the Chinese or anything like that. He's going to take it to the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party is like, and then they roll it out. Interestingly enough, on the eve of the Intel hearings, don't you find the timing just a little bit suspicious? Here's one Mr. Goldberg saying what he thinks should happen.
Just on that point, on Senator Kennedy's point, and going to Joe's point, you know, in the Army, in the armed forces, at the lower levels, they also have to adhere to cybersecurity rules.
Is this not a talking point? I mean, you just heard the exact same thing from Senator Mark Kelly just a couple moments ago.
And social media rules. And you can go to jail. You can go to Leavenworth for mishandling what we would consider to be minor classified information, right? And so, and if you look in military Reddit and a lot of other places where people are discussing this right now, there's a lot of, hey, you know, we would get busted for this, but they don't get...
Yeah, you might get busted unless you were actually set up. And I think the president actually believes, and I've questioned this all along, whether this was a set-up operation. You know, just a little too convenient so that Hillary Clinton could be like, ha, 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 you know, on the emails. Well, you know, Hillary, you had an entire server, so let's not even go there. Meanwhile, you got CNN, like, gleeful over the whole thing. This guy who used to actually have a show, shockingly enough, and at some point they figured out he wasn't exactly TV material, and so they relegated him to a newsletter. But he pops up now and then just to kind of rub people the wrong way. Let's go to his commentary on this, saying, oh, this is so stupid, they're so stupid, they're so stupid. Stupid, but like if they're set up and they don't have the proper security in place because maybe the NSA is not entirely on their side, which we're going to get to in one moment, then, you know, maybe that's what happens.
The administration has just confirmed to CNN that this signal message group was authentic.
Yes, and Goldberg now knows that as well. He wondered for days if this was real or if it was a setup. Goldberg has been criticized by Trump and the Trump administration in the past. Just last week, Trump attacked The Atlantic magazine at the same time that, you know, Goldberg was working on this story. So Goldberg wondered, was this real or was it a trap? Was someone trying to trick him? And once the bombs actually fell in Yemen, he realized this was real and something worth reporting on. Also noteworthy, he has now left that group chat, even though presumably he could have stayed in there and kept listening in for a while longer. Goldberg's article at theatlantic.com is well worth a read for people who haven't read it yet.
Oh my gosh, it's like he's selling
about the
it.
inner workings of the Trump administration.
Yeah. He's like selling us on, you know, go read it at The Atlantic. I don't know, like maybe you're a good reporter who would actually say, gee, maybe I should call the White House because this is concerning to me, rather than go wild with it and call all your Democrat friends. I mean, he's basically just an arm of the Democrat Party. Oh, but we know that about the media now, don't we now? Yeah, we know. They are nothing but an arm of the Democrat Party, and that's been proven over and over and over again, and this is just the latest and greatest. So now Donald Trump's like, okay, well, someone's going to pay, and it's going to be the head of the NSA because this is the guy that should have known better. He should have better protected us. And could he have protected them? Well, that's not really entirely clear, in part because he was sworn in under the other team. And I'm just going to mention something. Like, here you are putting in a head of CIA, you got a head of DNI, you got a new, Secretary of Defense. Like, maybe you need a new head of the NSA, knowing that the NSA actually can listen to everything, okay? They're like CIA on steroids. So maybe in this case, you do actually want to have your own person, your own loyalist. It kind of seems like a logical thing. And yet, for whatever reason, he hadn't put that person in. Laura Loomer was going on and on about vetting. The left is furious with her. The media is furious with her. They're saying she has too much power because somehow she apparently clued Donald Trump into the fact that not everybody had been vetted. And this resulted in 4 NSC people getting the heave-ho, along with the head of the NSA and his second lieutenant person. Here's Laura Loomer talking about this on actually Stephen Crowder's show recently.
I just think that there needs to be more appreciation demonstrated to Trump loyalists because unfortunately, we do see a lot of gatekeeping in the GOP. And the thing that I harped on the most during the campaign season was, the importance of vetting. We need to vet people so that we don't have the same nightmare that we saw happen in the first administration, where people who are disloyal to President Trump curry favor once the election's over after, shit talking him the entire election season. And then they just get to go, oh, you know what? I'm going to sneak in and I'm going to reap all the benefits and the glory and the praise of getting a White House job.
Sure.
I thought that we were keeping a binder full of receipts. I don't know if some of the people on the campaign meant it when they said they were keeping the receipts, but I meant it.
Yeah.
I literally have a binder of receipts, and I know who's loyal and I know who is disloyal.
Okay, so that's Laura, and she's making this point because, you know what, this is a president who's up against it in different ways, right? In ways that, frankly, you know, Joe Biden didn't even have to deal with, maybe until the very, 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 very end. And she went out there and she did all this digging, and she's a good reporter, and she's, you know, she knows her way around Google, and basically she figured out these were all Biden appointees. And do you really want a Biden person running the NSA? Now, the left would tell you, oh, it doesn't matter because, like, this is nonpartisan, et cetera. Well, this guy was, you know, one of General Milley's people. So do you really want a General Milley person there running the NSA, knowing that the NSA is probably spying on you? I think it's a fair, you know what? There's a reason to be paranoid right now, okay? There's a reason to be paranoid. If you're Donald Trump and you're on his team, of course you're paranoid. You're paranoid because, for goodness sakes, ladies and gentlemen, look at what they did. I mean, they tried to bankrupt him. We'll get to Leticia in a second. To the tune of he now owes more than $500 million, $500 million. They tried to throw him in jail. They got the mugshot, which he's proud of, as he should be, courtesy of Fannie Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia. You got Alvin Bragg, who was trying to, you know, who did finally get the criminal conviction that they were so desiring. I mean, this is nuts. And then on top of it, look, you know, of course he doesn't trust anything because he was nearly killed in Pennsylvania. All right. So I think that Laura Loomer saying, gee, you know, maybe you want your own person in charge at the NSA. You want the deputy at the NSA to be your own person. You want to make sure that everybody on your NSC team is really rooting for you as opposed to the other side. I mean, I think that's kind of just exactly what it should be, right? Given what this is unique. Like, he has a lot of detractors, a lot of people that really, really fundamentally don't like him, but might be willing to take the gig, or a lot of never-Trumper type Republicans that are half in, half out. Think about what went down the other day with poor Elon. We love Elon, do we not, here on this show? Look at what Elon's done. And by the way, he's exposing all kinds of stuff, and there's more to come. But Donald Trump has a meeting with his cabinet members. And within minutes of that closed-door meeting ending, Politico has an article that Elon Musk is out. You know, we led with this the other day. And I was like, oh, you know, it took me a while actually to get on air because I was trying to vet it, et cetera. You know, we don't want to just entirely go with what Politico's saying. But bottom line, you know, he's going to be out the end of May anyway. That was always the intention. I think it caught Elon by surprise. It took him about 6 hours to actually respond via tweet. And now Donald Trump saying on the plane just last night on Air Force One, you know, he's going to miss Elon. And he likes smart people. And Elon has made a major contribution. But eventually everybody knew he was going to go back to his businesses. I get back to, how did that leak? Somebody, one of the cabinet members, decided to make a phone call to one of their reporter friends or text their reporter friend. And then all of a sudden, it's everywhere. It's on Bloomberg, it's on Politico, it's on Daily Mail. It was everywhere. So if you can't trust your top lieutenants because they just run their mouth and they're on their phones and you give them confidential information and say, you know, Elon's probably going to be phasing out, and you're trusting them, and they run off to the media with it, that's pretty darn bad. I mean, look, the media is they're just a bad bunch, and they can't keep a secret, and they love to chat, and there's some really, really, like, seedy connection there between politics and the media. And I say that, you know, having been a member of the media as long as I have been, but I still don't really consider myself an insider in that way, only in that, you know, look, I quadruple check everything, right? I would never go with anything based on one source. I have multiple sources. I would never betray a source. I would never betray my boss, for goodness sakes. You're in a cabinet meeting and your boss, the president of the United States, says, you know, Elon's probably going to be winding down. And the first thing you do is you run out and call Politico. Somebody did it. Somebody did it. So Laura is not wrong. She's not wrong. And okay, you know, that the left doesn't like her. The left doesn't like her because maybe she has some influence because Donald Trump is like, okay, this girl actually, she's got it going on. She's out there doing the research on the people that are working for the NSA. She's done all this research on the judges, right? And all the sort of strange connections that say the judge who's now actually taking that Signal Gate case what his background is, who his daughter works for. It happens to be an NGO that is defending some of these MS-13 gang members. He's, by the way, the judge that wanted to stop the plane midair. Those are important things to know. Hopefully he's got staff that's doing this and he doesn't rely on her entirely. But for whatever reason, he trusts her judgment, apparently, and it may have impacted his decision on whether or not to keep the head of the NSC. But I'm going to go back to basics. Like, why would you have, forgive me, not the head of the NSC, the NSA, national security, and then you've got the, basically it's like NSC. We were talking about this last night, and a friend of mine and myself, like all these different intel agencies, and I'm like, yeah, the NSA is like the big deal, and then the NSC is sort of like where CIA meets the NSA. But I'm just, I would want my own people there. Like, I think it's a really logical thing to want. The media's livid. It was like one of the headlines after the tariffs, after the sell-off in the Wall Street Journal last night, and in the New York Times as well. And then you had Peppermint Patty there over, Biden's former pusher there, with his narrative at the White House. Jen Psaki, forgive me, Peppermint Patty, but anyway, you know who I mean. She's just going off on Laura Loomer.
Call it a close personal friendship with Trump over the years, cozying up to him at Mar-a-Lago events and even traveling with Trump on the campaign trail last year. You can see right there. Even accompanying him to a 9/11 anniversary observance in Lower Manhattan. I mean, that was quite a choice by Trump. It was so outrageous that actually fellow Republicans finally pushed Trump to distance himself from Loomer and boot her off his plane. Let's take a minute to sit with this. The president and a number of his key cabinet members and his chief of staff had to listen to rantings of a 9/11 conspiracy theorist in the Oval Office. Imagine being Howard Lutnick listening to that. Remember, his financial firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, lost 658 people in the World Trade Center in 9/11, including his own brother. So what was Loomer really there for? I mean, according to the New York Times, she walked into the White House with a sheaf of papers attacking the character and loyalty of numerous NSC officials. Now, to be clear, these weren't exactly rogue liberals she was attacking, not people just secretly Democrats in the rough there. I mean, a lot of these people had actually worked for the Trump administration during the first term. But Loomer said they were disloyal to Trump because they were, quote, neocons. Now, sources tell NBC News that Waltz stood up for his employees in the meeting. But remember, he's on pretty thin ice right now in the White House. Mainly, it seems, over the fact that he had Jeffrey Goldberg's contact in his phone, less than over the group chat he initiated that included attack plans and emojis. Who knows? But that aside, in the end, it seems Waltz's National Security Council got Loomered. Now, that is her term, not my term. But after that meeting, as the world economy was melting down from Trump's tariff announcement, the president fired at least 6 officials from the National Security Council, according to the Times. Now, today, Trump said that was totally unrelated.
Okay, so clearly Peppermint Patty does not like Laura Loomer. I don't think that little innuendo, if you caught that, was really quite nice either. We actually asked Laura to come on today, but she's out giving depositions in LA because she's suing Bill Maher because he made a little bit more of an innuendo about her and Donald Trump, a married man who, by the way, I think is doing just fine, right, with his wife, Melania. I mean, Laura did not appreciate that. She's actually suing Bill Maher for $150 million. So she couldn't come on the program today to discuss this, but I'm just going to say, like, look, she may not be everybody's cup of tea, but she is out there doing a lot of digging. And whether or not he listened to her, he's sort of saying no. I mean, she's made some comments on it actually on Twitter, and she's like, look, this is what I found. I'm not going to divulge the conversation I had with the president that was off record, but this is what I found on these people. There you have it. So the media is mad. I think it's kind of sort of interesting and telling that Jen Psaki is suddenly taking, everybody else's side of the NSC staffers that got fired, et cetera. It's kind of unusual. I'm just thinking a little bit unusual. Suddenly she's like all for Cantor Fitzgerald's Howard Lutnick. I mean, that's a new one, right? So politics makes for strange bedfellows. I would say Donald Trump has to be extraordinarily cautious about who's around him. And, the place is leaking like a sieve if he makes one comment about Elon and then suddenly it shows up in Politico, which, by the way, don't forget, Politico was a recipient of U.S. aid dollars to the tune of, gosh, what was that? They got $8.4 million for subscriptions at $10,000 a pop. You think anybody needs Politico subscriptions at $10,000 a pop? Nope. But the government was signing up for these things like hotcakes. Oh, election year. What do you know? And Politico was the preferred place of choice. Don't forget, when the 51X spooks wanted to attack and say that laptop was nothing but misinformation, Hunter Biden's laptop, fed to you courtesy of Rudy Giuliani, guess where that wound up? That was right there in Politico. Just saying. Okay, just saying. So I think that Laura's onto something. I think the media can't stand it. I think that you probably need to shore up and make sure that everybody is on the same team, right? Same exact team, so that they're not out shooting their mouths off to the likes of Politico. Because look what they tried to do. Look what they're still trying to do. Leticia James is promising, like, she's not done. She's going for it every single day. She's already got basically a fine of nearly, over at this point, because you got to account for interest, over $500 million that Donald Trump is supposed to pay. We're sitting here waiting on the darn Court of Appeals. I'm getting kind of sick and tired of it. Thank you very much. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. That thing should have been turned around in a month, and yet they're sitting on that appeal. Like, it should be thrown out of court. None of it made any sense. They knew it. The judges were like, where's your victim? Where's your victim? This doesn't make any sense. Everybody made money. Who's unhappy? Anyway, Leticia James can't help herself. At an event this afternoon, she just went off. Like, totally off. Like, this woman is consumed with her vengeance. It's very clear. Watch.
Again, I apologize. Listen, 57 years after the assassination of Dr. King, and Dr. King talked about that stone of hope. And it's that stone of hope that gives me a fire in my belly each and every morning. It's that stone of hope that allows me to wake up and to stand to Donald Trump and to say, Donald Trump, I'm not afraid of you. It's that stone of hope. It's that stone of hope that gives me power. That's that stone of hope and the belief in each and every one of you to let you know that I'm not going to allow my ancestors, all of those who died for me to be in this position, I am not going to disgrace them and disappoint them. I am going to use the law both as a sword and as a shield and challenge Donald Trump. And each and every time he issues an illegal executive order, I am going to stand up to him because he represents to me sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And so DEI, as far as I am concerned, is more than about just black people. Let's be honest. That's right. DEI is about paid parental leave. DEI is about disabled children. DEI includes a number of categories. So when they talk about DEI, let them know that they're not only coming after us, but they're coming after all of us. And we've got to stand together, a stand-in community, stand with this great organization under the leadership of our civil rights leader, Reverend Al Sharpton, who has been a light, a bright and shining light in the darkness. But I don't know about you. It's that stone of hope that inspires me each and every day. And listen, faith and fear can never share the same space. And so I'm covered by the blood. And I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. You can come after me, but no enemy, nothing formed against me will perish. Nothing formed against me. Nothing formed against me. Nothing formed against me.
Are you done? My gosh. Oh my gosh.
And you thought you could preach, huh?
girl, you missed your calling. You should get a job in a church. Not my kind of church. Not with that kind of rhetoric, but nonetheless, you see where she was going. She's embodying what I guess Rev Sharpton is maybe a little bit too old these days to do, although we occasionally see it from him. I'm sorry, she kind of really, she lost me from the very beginning, but she really lost me with Rev Sharpton, because Rev Sharpton is the guy that took, what was that? $500,000 for his charity, just like 48 hours before sitting down to interview one Kamala Harris. What is this? Like MSNBC sells its airwaves on the side? FCC needs to investigate that one too. Don't you think? What was that about? Oprah at least had her own production company, and she won't admit to it, but the New York Times is saying that Oprah got paid $2 million to interview one Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, Rev Sharpton gets $500,000 to interview Kamala Harris on MSNBC's air. At least have the decency to do it on your own platform, mister. Wow. So Leticia is all revved up. She's like, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you go after our migrants at Rikers? Because for some reason she feels very compelled to protect them. This is not a great look, right, for New York. She feels very strongly that everybody should have access to all the transgender care operations that they may want. Again, not exactly something that plays in Peoria. And she wants to show that she's ready, willing, able to fight. I think this woman has presidential aspirations. I kid you not. Watch her. She's highly dangerous. She's dangerous because of what she did and what she's indicating she's willing to do. Clearly has a total absence of all ethics. But at some point it's gonna catch up with her, because I just want to say something kind of basic here, right? Something kind of basic, which is that Leticia James is trying to argue for the state of New York that they can be a sanctuary state. And New York City can be a sanctuary city. But in reality, if there's one thing in the Constitution that empowers the federal government, it is the federal government's ability to control its borders. So I'm sorry, Tish, babe, you're out of luck on that one. As a former Trump attorney said on my friend Benny's show, I just love this. Some of you guys have seen this before, and I promise I won't play you too many old sound bites, but this is just fantastic because he sums it up here like, hey, honey, it's over.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time. And we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitution.
Right? Like I told you, that was good. Sorry, honey, we're going to put your fat you-know-what in prison before you do that. Look, Leticia is saying she's not afraid. She's fine. Like, okay, I'll go to prison. But you know what she might be a little bit afraid of? She might be a little bit afraid of New York losing so much money, because he's just clawing it all back. Pam Bondi making it very clear just several weeks ago that New York wasn't going to get a dime from the federal government. They're not going to get a dime because they are completely in violation of federal rule and federal law, which is why Leticia James has been sued by the Department of Justice, which is why Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, has been sued by the Department of Justice, and why Attorney General Pam Bondi is also going after the head of the DMV there in New York. So there's a lot of things sort of coming into play. When you think about the immigration issue, right? And Leticia's like, oh, no, we're going to protect these people. Protect them. Why? Protect them. Oh, we want more illegals to come here? We're going to put them up in more hotels on taxpayer dimes and give them $300 and some odd a week to buy ethnically appropriate food in these little credit card things? I don't think so. America doesn't have the money for that. Let's be very clear. And you heard what Elon had already said. We've got that story. Greg Williams, thank you for your generosity. We heard what they were saying vis-a-vis what they felt about people being enrolled, not just to get benefits, right, with the Social Security numbers. They're just stunned by what they've found, not just the benefits, but also, ladies and gentlemen, his concern is that they were trying to get them to vote. We know that New York actually has something on the rolls right now where they're looking at possibly allowing for 800,000 people that are illegally in New York to vote. Again, Greg, thank you. Yes, I'm working on a Friday evening because we got news, right? We got news. You know I'm always here. Guys, I am always here for you. I mean that. Like, this is my passion. This is what I do. And I'm going to continue every single... I've even been here when I'm, supposed to be on vacation, but I'm never really on vacation. Not when it comes to the news business. I've done this my entire life, and I can't imagine doing anything else. It is a wonderful treat to be completely independent, right? I mean, not having to answer to any of the bigwigs at Fox or CNBC or Bloomberg. Oh, that was a tough one. I mean, it's really nice to just have it be me and you. And there's an authenticity and I think a truth here that you don't really get when you have all the bells and whistles. Though don't get me wrong, having a full-on hair and makeup department, that can come in handy. Anyway, I want to mention, of course we are fully independent, and we're thankful for that. And we're also thankful for our sponsors on this great show, right? And I think, the ability to bring you this free is something that I'm so passionate about, and they make it possible. I get we're attached to our cell phones, right? We're all attached to our cell phones. I live with this thing. It sleeps right next to my bed. That's probably not healthy. I probably work too much. But anyway, we use our cell phones for everything. And with that in mind, what if I told you could help veterans? You could help first responders. You could support the Constitution. And, you don't need to have anything change on your phone service except who's actually sending you the bill. As America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, I'm really happy to partner up with Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile, which offers a way to support our values, right? Which our values are very strong and apparently unique. I think they're actually pretty much just common sense. But anyway, it means you can support this without compromising your service, without compromising the quality of your cell phone and your connection. None of that. And it's basically a way for you to help defend our rights and our freedoms. With Patriot Mobile, you'll get outstanding nationwide coverage because they operate on all 3 major networks. If they have cell phone service today, you can get cell phone service with Patriot Mobile with a coverage guarantee. You can even have multiple carriers. That's kind of cool, right? On one phone. I'm telling you, that actually is really cool. Because if you live where like I live, which is kind of out in the sticks, it means that you have service sometimes. I actually used to carry, until I got Patriot Mobile, I used to carry 2 phones. Imagine that, 2 phones, because I have service with one and service with another. So it's like a big deal if you can have all those services in one place. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Trish. You're going to get a free month of service with the promo code Trish, my name. Call them at 972-PATRIOT. Just tell them I sent you. Switching is easy. Totally easy. You can keep your number, you keep your phone, you keep your upgrade, whatever you have. 100% US-based customer support team. That matters, right? That will support you and find the perfect plan. So switch to Patriot Mobile today. Get a free month of service. patriotmobile.com/Trish or call 972-PATRIOT. Wow, did you see the markets? Okay, we got a really big sell-off on our hands, and I think that, the market is, as always, overdoing it. That's just the way it rolls. Kind of reminds me of March 2020, shall we say. You had the S&P, the NASDAQ, basically off nearly 6%. Dow was off nearly 6%. It was like 5.5% and change here today. And I'm just going to tell you, I think it's totally overdone. And you get the media piling on in a massive way, which is truly pathetic. But, if you have time, I got to tell you, if you have time, you might want to actually think about sharpening your pencil right about now, because if you have time on your side, and by time I mean, like if you don't need the money next year or even 2 years from now, and you have like a 5-year time horizon, you probably want to actually be looking to diversify into some really good tech companies right now. We can help you with that at 76research.com. But I mention this only because it was such a bloodbath on Wall Street today, and I really feel like it's not justified. It's totally out of control, and it's not the right thing at this moment in time. I mean, heck, sign of the times, right? This moment in time, we've got the Davos founder out at the World Economic Forum. Did you see that news? It kind of got buried by the sell-off yesterday. But anyway, Klaus Schwab is out at Davos. No more. He started it, the World Economic Forum, and the World Economic Forum came to symbolize everything powerful about global economics, which is not really a good thing if you're, say, an American worker. It was all about free trade, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not completely anti-free trade, and we can talk about the tariffs, et cetera. I think that Donald Trump is going to be working towards getting better trade agreements, including, hey, Vietnam coming out and saying, we'll do 0% tariffs. He's like, okay, let's, come to the table, let's talk. I think you need more fair trade, if you would, and trade that makes sense, right? Because we don't necessarily want to be making our socks and underwear. We want high-tech manufacturing. And so, hey, if Vietnam's willing to make the socks and underwear and they're going to do 0% tariffs, maybe something like that works. Anyway, he's taken this on in ways that basically make Davos, I would imagine, very, very, very nervous. And the stock market, let's face it, I think the market was expecting one thing, they got something different, and so it's all going to shake out. But I think it's fascinating, and there's an investigation into their practices, in their hiring practices and how they treated employees, and the guy who runs the whole thing, I mean, of course, he's like 86 years old anyway, he is now done. And I think it's very, very, very interesting timing. Mr. Schwab stepping aside, Klaus Schwab stepping aside as the forum's chair. This thing was so darn hypocritical, really, really hypocritical. I remember I was supposed to be there one year, and I was at Bloomberg as a reporter at the time, and Bloomberg was like freaking out. They were like, well, you can't go. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't go? I'm supposed to go. Like contractually, actually, I was supposed to go. I'm like, I'm planning on it, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean I can't go? Well, you can't go because we don't have the right passes for you. I'm like, what do you mean passes? I mean, I'm going there to interview Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? Like, this is my job. And they're like, no. You can't get into the right venues because you have to have a certain color on your pass. Like, there's orange, and there's purple, and there's gold, and there's this, that, and the other. And we can't get the right level pass. And so you won't be able to go to the best parties and this and that. And I'm like, what do you, and so it was explained to me, you see. And I believe that year it was something about effectively, the importance of diversity and the importance of bringing everybody along, et cetera. And so there's a certain irony built into all of this. The fact that you had to wear a badge right on you, basically as a status check. And they were like, it wouldn't be appropriate for our Bloomberg reporter to be there without the fanciest badge. And I'm like, wow, you guys are way overthinking this. And, this is Davos, though. That's what it was. And so now he's stepping aside. And maybe there's a chance, I don't know, for maybe the organization to do some good. Probably not. Probably not. It's like Disney, right? Like Disney's gone too far down that path. Probably not. And so they'll just continue gathering and continue to be, dare I say, now irrelevant. I mean, they've been irrelevant for some time. Now he's stepping down amidst that irrelevance, and they can go over there and maybe get some people to pay a lot of money for certain badges that they only hand out quite sparingly, apparently. And the world moves on. The world moves on with America becoming a more powerful economy. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. And Trump doesn't have a lot of time, let's be honest, right before midterms. Right now, he's got the wind at his back. We've got a good jobs report today. Last few inflation reports have been pretty decent. You've got expectations coming down in the bond market. Inflation is coming down in terms of interest rates. So all of this bodes well. But still, I'm telling you, if he doesn't have things kind of lined up 2 years from now when it comes to midterms, it could be a little bit dicey. I mean, hey, you might get Klaus out of retirement. Hopefully not. Anyway, it's good news. Davos founder is going bye-bye. Hey, speaking of good news, I don't know if any of you, I mentioned this the other day or planning on doing this, but I'd love to have you down in Savannah, Georgia, because I'm going to be speaking there in Savannah, Georgia at our annual Freedom Fighters Summit with my friends at Job Creators Network. Job Creators Network just sort of believes in all the fundamental economic freedoms that I believe in. And we're going to have a great crowd there. We've got Kellyanne Conway, we've got my friend Grover Norquist, Steve Moore, Governors Youngkin and Kemp. We've got many, many members of the president's cabinet. Members of Congress are going to be there. We've got Mike Gallagher, who's a radio host, some of you may know. Myself, of course. My friend Sarah Carter, great investigative reporter. Bill Bennett. Ooh, we're going to ask him about education, right? He used to be a former Secretary of Education. Just a huge, huge roster of people. We've got Rob Schneider, the comedian Rob Schneider. Also, music from Lee Greenwood. Lee Greenwood is going to be performing. And, of course, there's lots of opportunities to tour Savannah, which is a really nice place, and go golfing. So it's a one-of-a-kind private event. You get a special discount. Did I put the discount up? I'm going to put it in the show notes, but let me make sure I include that for you. Here, discount code SALEM, because you get the second ticket at 50% off. So again, I'd love to see you in Savannah, Georgia. I forgot to tell you the dates. May 1st and May 2nd, I'm going to be there. I hope you're going to be there too. Spirit-filled. Good to see you back on the program here on this Friday. Always love seeing you and appreciate all your generosity. Indeed, it's very, very kind of you. Best news reporting with the model and singer and reporter, Trish Regan. Thank you so much. You know that I'm a singer. Yes, indeed. Maybe I'll have to get up and sing with Lee. This is really quite something to show you. Snow White has been effectively, I think, the pinnacle of DEI nonsense. And Disney perhaps is starting to realize that a little bit too late. They have just announced that they are canceling Snow White's cousin, Rapunzel. They were going to do this whole remake of Tangled, which is based on the Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair story. So they were going to do this live action remake, and they just announced, well, technically they're saying they're putting it on the pause button, but I think it's kind of canceled. You know why? Because finally, maybe leadership is realizing over at Disney that you can't just keep recycling all these old shows and then just wokeify them, right? Okay, we're going to put a Colombian actress in as Snow White, and we think it's suddenly going to be better. And we're going to not have dwarves because maybe we're going to offend the dwarves. Well, believe me, you really did offend the dwarves by not having any. Disney's Snow White is now on pace to lose $115 million, you guys, all right? So this is a disaster. It made like $43 million at the box office here in the US, and then it made like 100 and something overseas. But the reality is, when it's all said and done, it's coming up short, 115 million. And by the way, this includes the merch, okay? So all the merchandise and everything. These are projections from Disney reported there in the New York Post. So I think they're like, okay, maybe we just need to think about this a little bit more. Maybe we don't want to just have another sequel and hope for the best and wokeify it in some way, because just look at what we lost on none other than Rachel Zegler. I mean, she's a special brute in and of herself, is she not, right? And that actually probably contributed to some of this loss. I would also just say that the film was bad. Like, it was bad, all right? I have a pretty high tolerance for a lot of stuff. And, I like musicals, but this was bad. I mean, the music was bad. The actors were bad. The script was bad. And I just found out that Greta Gerwig actually wrote part of this. This is the woman that wrote Barbie, and she wrote, a few other woke things along the way. And it's like, of course. Well, she's just really not that good at her job. She didn't get a title credit. They gave it to somebody else, which if I'm Greta, I'm like, phew, thank God. I really don't want my name on that thing. It was awful. Okay. And the director is probably pretty sad. He's got his son out tweeting that it's all Rachel's fault. It's partly her fault, but it's also the fault of the institution that chose to do this woke remake and focus too much on the formula instead of the passion for creation. And I think that's what Disney has really, really lost. They're also up against it, of course. As you know, we've reported here recently, the SEC announced an investigation into DEI discrimination that is happening there at Disney. You go back to New York and you see Leticia saying, we can have all the DEI we want. No, it's actually not legal. right? It's not legal. It's a form of discrimination. That's all it is. And constitutionally, it's not legal. She's not a very good lawyer. I don't think she went to very good schools. Anyway, Brennan Carter making the point over and over again here. I've talked to you guys about this, about inclusion standards across ABC actually being illegal, because you can have, inclusion standards that say we have 50% of regular and recurring characters that have to be drawn from underrepresented groups. Well, they may have, and I think in fact they did this. They forced certain racial and identity quotas into every level of production, which I hate to say it, but like if that's how you're hiring people, you're going to wind up with things like this, which is why shareholders ought to sue them too. I mean, the investigation by the FCC is all fine, but I wouldn't be very happy as a shareholder in Disney. And so I think they're coming back to reality here, and they're like, okay, we're getting rid of our DEI programs. We had 2 of them, and we're getting rid of Rapunzel. That's not going to happen, or at least we're going to put it on hold until we can figure out exactly what the market wants, because the administration obviously is breathing down our backs saying you can't do this. And then you've got the actual ticket goers that don't want these products that you guys keep trying to sell. Like, that's kind of sort of basic. We've talked about Disney over at 76 Research, 76 portfolios. We do not hold it in any of our portfolios, all of which have beaten the S&P recently. But I encourage you to go and take a look. I know a lot of people are looking at the market and saying, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. If we can help you in some way, we do have 3 portfolios. The Income Builder is one that includes a lot of those dividend stocks and a lot of those protection stocks that you may be seeking if you have a short time horizon versus, say, American Resilience, which is more focused on some of the tech plays that will really, in my estimation, pay off in a few years. So take a look at all of this there at 76 portfolios, 76portfolios.com, or you can go to 76research.com. Just use my code $, and you'll get the report, anyway, the 76 report for free. Forgive me, for $1. What am I saying? Oh, it's Friday. $1 a month. Anyway, I'm just looking at Netflix right now. So Netflix apparently has not learned anything from Disney. We know what happened with Snow White. We know it's at least a $115 million loss. That's not very good. Spiritfield, thank you so much. Again, much appreciated. I'm laughing. He's saying, weird, weird, weird. You know what's not weird, though, is that America rejected this, right? And I think America is going to reject the latest and greatest out of Netflix. You see, Netflix has decided to remake a wonderful story, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And if you guys are familiar, I used to read it when I was a kid. I thought it was so magical. And then they turned it into the Chronicles of Narnia, and it became a show. And it's a wonderful, wonderful story. It's by C.S. Lewis, who had a very strong sort of Christian conviction. And when he created these characters, one of which was Aslan, the lion, it was created to resemble Jesus Christ, which is why this is very interesting who they're picking now to play Aslan in the new wokeified Chronicles of Narnia. None other than, this lady, remember her from that big shindig with Oprah Winfrey to promote Kamala Harris some 40 some odd days right before the election? You know who I'm talking about?
Hello, President Harris. Oh.
Yeah. 47 days. 47 days, yes.
From my mouth to God's ear. And hello, Oprah.
Yeah. That's who they want to play Aslan, who's depicted as a male lion because he's supposed to be basically symbolically Jesus Christ. So way to go, Netflix. You're really going to win over more people with that. Take a look. They are in negotiations right now. Apparently, and you can add Greta Gerwig into the mix too, because this is her script. I'm telling you, Netflix really, really doesn't learn. Greta, who had a hand in Snow White. Again, this Snow White that just had this tremendous loss and was just a disaster for Disney. Yet, they had 7 writers on this thing, including Greta Gerwig. She was uncredited. So this was the debate last night, because I was talking with one of the guys who works on my team, He's like, oh my gosh, it's a Greta Gerwig special again. And I'm like, no, she wasn't. I looked for this. I couldn't find her name on Snow White. And sure enough, he came up with this. She's one of the 7 writers, and she is just clearly not very talented. Not very talented. And then they're going to go wokeify a story that actually has a lot of symbolic meaning to a lot of people. And they're going to offend Christians, but this is what they do. Because, hey, think about, Cynthia Erivo. Heck, she's playing Jesus Christ in the Jesus Christ Superstar at Hollywood Bowl. I mean, this woman, wow, she's something, she might actually look like a man. I tells you. Wokeism is still alive and well. And, people, they need to think about this just a little bit more. I want to turn to a big story that is not getting enough play because this is really smart what the administration is trying to do, guys, right now. Have you heard of, drumroll please, the XRS? Forget the IRS, we're going for the XRS. We want the External Revenue Service. Remember how Donald Trump's like, why don't we charge more money? Like, why aren't we making money? Well, the tariff stuff has something to do with that, but there's another rather clever way that they're thinking about reducing debt. I'll let him say it. All right, I'll give you a clue. It has something to do with a very, very special card.
$5 million. For $5 million, this could be yours. That was the first of the cards. You know what that card is?
Gold card.
It's the gold card. The Trump card, gold card.
Who's the first buyer?
Me.
Who's the second?
I don't know, but I'm the first buyer. It'll be out in about less than 2 weeks, probably. Pretty exciting, right?
Yes. Very exciting. So it's coming out pretty soon. And just to give you a little bit more perspective on it, it costs $5 million, and they really think they can sell these things. According to Howard Lutnick, it's not just Trump. Actually, they've sold like 1,000 of these. Basically, the way it would work is it gives you like an option on becoming an American. So they go and they court all these really, really wealthy individuals, and they're like, hey, would you like to have the optionality of being an American one day? And some people might say, well, no, I don't really want to turn over 50% of my income to Uncle Sam, if you're wealthy enough, right, to buy a $5 million card. And so the idea here is that you just actually don't have to become a citizen, but you have the option of becoming one. So if at some point you want you and your whole family to show up at JFK and say, I got my gold card, well, then you can come in and you can be a U.S. citizen. We'll get your tax money too. Here's Howard Lutnick talking about it. I think this is on All In. He went on a podcast and spoke about this recently. This is the Commerce Secretary.
About 2 weeks from today, it goes out. Okay? Elon's building me the software right now.
Yeah.
Right? And then out it goes. And by the way, yesterday I sold 1,000.
Oh, you did? I got a poly market I created on how many are you guys going to sell this year. So
cool.
I'm, curious to see how many.
That's fantastic. Do you want to tell people just the rough?
Yeah, what are the terms on
it?
Yeah.
So if you're a U.S. citizen, you pay global tax.
Yeah.
Okay? So you're not going to bring in outsiders going to come in to pay global tax. So if you have a green card, which used to be a green card, now gold card, you're a permanent resident of America. You can be a citizen, but you don't have to be. And none of them are going to choose to be. What they're going to do is they're going to have the right to be in America. They pay $5 million, and they have the right to be in America. They have the right to be in America.
Permanent residency. Yeah.
As long as they're good people.
And they're vetted.
And they can't break the law. We can always take it away if they're like evil or mean or bad or something. Not mean, but if they do something horrible, you can take it away. Right? But the idea is, if I was not American and I lived in any other country, I would buy 6. One for me, one for my wife and my 4 kids, because God forbid something happens. I want to be able to go to America, and I want to have the right to go to the airport, to go to America, and them to say, hello, Mr. Lutnick. Hello, Mr. Lutnick and the Lutnick family. Welcome home.
Right.
That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear I can't come here when there's a horrible war, a horrible whatever.
Right.
I want to be able to go home. Right? And once I'm home, I might as well build a business.
Yeah.
So you have the most productive people in the world going to start spending time here. They're going to have a family office. They're going to hire some people.
And you're not going to tax their external worldwide income.
I only tax the money they make in America, which is what we do now.
Yeah.
But their global income stays out.
And they pay $5 million. And how many people do you think there are that could qualify in the world?
There are 37 million people in the world who are capable of buying the card.
That's
in case you were wondering.
37 million. Wow. That's a lot more than ChatGPT told me.
Who are capable of buying it.
Who are capable of buying it.
Now, I'm not saying they will, but they're capable of buying it.
All right. So that's a big number, okay? So if there are 37 million people that could possibly buy one of these gold cards, a Trump gold card for $5 million, which gives them this optionality of one day being able to come to the U.S. and, they go out and they buy it for their whole family. Think about that. Well, I mean, like the national debt would be reduced immediately. I mean, actually, like that's like way more than we need. If our national debt's like 38 trillion, basically you're looking at what, 160 trillion with 37 million possible cards. Now, I don't think that they really have 37 million that they could really possibly sell, but you don't need 37 million. I mean, they sold 1,000, which is 5 billion. They don't need 37 million. You could actually raise the money and wipe out the debt, with a fraction of that. So this is innovative, guys, okay? Like, this is actually really innovative. And when Donald Trump talks about, I want to find ways for the U.S. to make money and to raise money, this is what he's talking about. So I am blown away. I think it's super cool. Clearly, he does too.
$5 million. For $5 million, this could be yours. That was the first of the cards. You know what that card is?
Gold card.
It's the gold card. The Trump card, gold card.
Who's the first buyer?
Me.
Who's the second?
I don't know.
But they may have many, many more lined up. Buddy Sanders, great to have you here. You are a team member, which I love. We have team membership here at the Trish Regan Show, and thank you for your generosity. I see you are definitely not a fan of General Milley, which relates back to what we were talking about, of course, earlier as I brought the show forward to you with the news that Donald Trump is getting just already fired. Just last night, late, that news broke. He's getting did fire the head of the NSA, as well as his top lieutenant, as well as a series of other people over at the NSC. And guess what? There are more coming. There are more coming with the thinking that, you really need to be out there kind of defending yourself in this environment. Something I do want to point out, as we talk about making money and the U.S. and the challenges that we're obviously seeing in the stock market right now, it is, of course, tax season, and my friends at American for Prosperity are pretty hard at work to make sure that April 15th does not get worse, because it could, right? Like, it could. I think I saw something from my friend Steve Moore's email that they want to now raise taxes. Republicans, actually. I mean, you got to worry about both sides. I'm sorry. You just have to worry about both sides, because everybody is just like, let me sock it to whoever I can. Republicans are looking at possibly raising taxes. But if the Democrats win, like, it's game over. Like, it's game over in 2 years. But there's something else going on. Trump's tax cuts, they're expiring next year, which means there could be $1,500 or more in taxes that come up on the average family of four. I mean, this is part of why he's looking at things like the External Revenue Service, and why he's trying to say, okay, well, maybe we need to tariff, because he wants to be able to justify and offer a tax cut to Americans. So even though we have Republicans in control, I wouldn't bet on that. I really, really wouldn't bet on that. Extending the tax cuts is critical to this mission succeeding. And there are a few members out there, Republicans, I'm looking at you, that could derail all of this, not to mention, where the Democrats are going to be. So this is why it's really important, I think, for us to focus on some of these issues right now. I want to put this in here because my friends at Americans for Prosperity, they are all about this. They have a grassroots effort to try and combat this and to really try and go after some of those members of Congress that don't want to protect your prosperity. So I encourage you to go to protectprosperity.com. .com today, and just think about how you can in any way, shape, or form get involved. I mean, you don't have to give money. This is sort of grassroots campaigning, and actually might be kind of fun, right? Because I think this is a cause that we can all embrace and get our heads around. Protect Prosperity. You can join the fight there at protectprosperity.com to keep those Trump tax cuts alive. He's going to need all the help he can get for sure. I want to get back though to the comment that just came through to our team member there, Buddy, as he points out that General Milley actually was not exactly in Trump's camp, and we certainly know that well, Buddy. And this is partly why I think they made the decision here to move forward against the NSA, to get rid of the NSA sort of top two lieutenants. Laura, to her credit, has been digging, and this is all public information, but to her credit, she kind of put it together and put it out there that General Ha basically, in her estimation, didn't have a place serving in the Trump administration because he was a General Milley guy and he was a Biden guy, and you just need your own team. In light of what has gone down, right? In light of this signal gate, which I don't think was just a mistake. I think somebody very deliberately tried to set them up, and then they're like, oh, well, why are you using Signal? Well, Signal was what the CIA told them to use and what they were assured was completely safe. Well, why didn't anybody from NSA say, hey, maybe you ought to think twice about Signal? Like, why wasn't he doing his job? Or maybe he was doing his job. Maybe the NSA is like going after Donald Trump. I don't mean to get too conspiratorial, and I will just say that, look, this is conjecture. This is not reporting, but my conjecture on all of this is my concern that there are people that are watching over him. He doesn't like that. I know that because I know him, and he really doesn't like that they like to micromanage his calendar or micromanage who he talks to, or, basically involve the NSC every time he may want to have an off-record conversation with anyone around the world. And his feeling is he should have the freedom to be able to do that, and they don't think that way. And so what may have even caused those guys, if you think about it, to migrate to Signal in the first place is that they were fearful that people were watching their internal communications and that there were backstabbers amongst them that would actually use anything they were doing against them. And they may have been concerned that they couldn't protect the security of the operation enough. I'm just throwing this out there. It might have been one of the reasons they migrated to Signal, thinking, okay, this is a place where we can convene and chat. And of course, we learned quite the alternative now with numerous people calling for Pete Hegseth. Perhaps they feel like he's easy pickings. And Mike Waltz's resignation. Mike Waltz doesn't know how Jeffrey Goldberg's name could possibly have gotten on there, has no clue whatsoever. And yet, I would just say, why didn't the NSA warn him? And I think Donald Trump is having the same sort of moment, like, wait a second, oh, this is a guy from the old team. Maybe I just need my own. Look, this is what happens, okay, guys? When a new CEO goes in, they get rid of all the other folks. And if they don't, they have problems. Look at Disney. Great example. Bob Iger retired. Bob Iger allegedly turned over the ranks to one Bob Chapek. But guess what? He didn't really. In fact, he kept an office at Disney and then would have lunches all the time with key people that were supposed to be reporting to Bob Chapek. So there was this war, this internal war within Disney going on, and Bob Iger was conspiring against Chapek. Well, you can't have that. It's Bob Chapek's fault, actually. He should have been nope, that guy's gone, and if you're associated with that guy, if you're on his team, you're not on my team. I need to actually restart things here at Disney. This is what chief executive officers do. Okay, that's what a good CEO does. And so Donald Trump is going in and he's saying, okay, I'm a good CEO. I got to make sure that I have my peeps, and my peeps are doing my bidding. And it's the right thing to do, because we can't actually trust who's there if they aren't really sort of all in. I go back to the very simple issue of somebody in that cabinet meeting decided to report to Politico that Elon Musk would be departing soon. And Donald Trump had conveyed this information, don't forget, right? Conveyed this information. Then all of a sudden, within minutes, it somehow winds up all over social media, all over the media in general. I want to show you here what Donald Trump just said last night about this, where he effectively, confirmed that he doesn't want to lose Elon, but that this is probably what's going down, and that, unfortunately, he can't stay there forever.
And into the United States. Sir, do you have a sense of how long Elon Musk's mission will last and when he will depart?
Well, Elon is fantastic. And I think he's a patriot, and I think it's a shame what they're doing with his car company. And a great car. It's a great car, great product. And it tells you what a patriot he is. He's amazing. No, I mean, as long as he'd like. I like smart people, and he's a smart person. I also like him personally. When he endorsed me, that's when I really got to know him. I knew him a little bit before that, but not much. And then he endorsed me. And it was a very strong, embracing endorsement, as we all know. And I would say Elon will stay for a certain period of time, and then he's going to want to get back to his businesses full time. But he's done a fantastic job. We found hundreds of, think of it, just hundreds of, we found millions of dollars of fraud and abuse and waste. And they're still going, they're going strong. They found something today that's horrible. It's horrible. So what they found, well, you'll find out very soon. What they found is incredible. And I give him a lot of credit. He's got some very smart people with him.
Do you think he can finish?
And they're working very closely with our secretaries and the people that are the heads of.
Do you think you would appoint him to another position once his 130 days?
I would. I think Elon's great, but he also has a company to run, or a number of companies to run. Then he can do this, then he can find the time. He loves the country, that's why he does it. But we're in no rush. But there'll be a point at which time Elon's going to have to leave.
So he has an auto company, a specific date.
I would think a few months.
Even when Elon leaves and goes back to being CEO, will Doge stick around in some kind of capacity?
Yeah, it'll still Doge itself, yeah. At some point, just so you understand, I don't want to get it wrong, I want Elon to stay as long as possible. Number one, I like him. Number two, he's doing a great job. Number three, he is a patriot. That's why he's doing this. And he's, it's very costly for him. But, so I want him to stay as long as possible. But there'll be a point where he's going to have to leave. And when he does, the secretaries will take totally over. And Doge will stay active. We have a lot of smart people. A lot of those people, I believe, are going to go into the agencies. And they'll work on it from the inside.
You mentioned auto companies that you've been speaking with. Have you spoken to
Because they're loyalists, all right? You get that? Like, he saw Elon as somebody who is a loyalist and Elon's team as being loyal to him. And so when he says they're going to go into the agencies, they will. And it will be a shame, of course, to lose Elon. I can't stress enough how vital and important he has been to this entire movement. It's just bizarre to me. And I say this again as a journalist because somebody had somebody on speed dial, and either somebody in the cabinet meeting decided, okay, I'm going to take this to a friend of mine, and they did something with it, or they actually took it direct to a reporter, because within sort of minutes of that information being out there, we are hearing, of course, that Elon was gone. And I think, again, he's got to batten down the hatches, and he's got to stop the rumor mills, and he's got to, for the sake of himself, for the sake of his administration, he's got to ensure that, everybody's on the same page. And look, the reality is not everybody is on the same page. I mean, my dear friend Steve Bannon, who I have tremendous, tremendous respect for, I kid you not, I think he's brilliant, and I think he's helped spearhead this entire movement and the importance that he stressed of American manufacturing, especially when it comes to high-tech things. He has not exactly been what you call an Elon fan. Here he is on his show, right around the new year.
If you can work out the mathematical formulas and the engineering complexity of sending a colony of human beings to Mars and keep them alive, you can work through the math on this, and you know it's a bald-faced lie. And here's how I know you know it's a bald-faced lie, because you cratered as soon as we got up in your grill. Oh, okay, fine. Well, I won't fight to the death. I'm not going to fight to the death and show all kind of new types of warfare. Why don't we reform? We need reform. And you're going to some BS answer, and you think we're going to buy that? Where did you come from, dude? Here's what you need to do. You need to study modern political history of the fights we've been through for 12 or 14 years to get to this spot. You think this is just because people are just wandering around? People have worked for over a decade pounding this, pounding this, pounding this. And that's how relentless the established order is. Because Baccia told you, they're making a lot of money and they have control, and this is about money and power. It's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about ethnicity. It's not about religion. That's what they want you to believe it is. So you're like a bucket of crabs at each other's throat. It's not about that. It's about money and power. And Karl Rove's going to get his 54 big donors down there. They're going to figure out how to stop Trump or how to compromise it. And they'll use Ted Cruz, or they'll use Little Marco, or they'll use Jeb Bush, or they don't care who they use. They'll throw up some chop block. They'll misdirect you. Oh, look at this. In that, there's some racism over there. You white folks, go look at that. That's a Fox specialty. We don't fall for that. So don't think you're going to come back and, oh, you know what? Well, what we need to do is increase it here and cut that cost there. Screw you, you clown. And then you got to suppress us. Oh, they're, I don't know, blacklisting you, whatever they do. I don't care what they do on Twitter. I could care less. We're banned on every platform in the world, and this show is one of the most powerful in the world. Why is that? Because the content of the show resonates with the most powerful audience in the world, working men and women that happen to be citizens of this great republic. This is a defining moment. Some of the people say, oh, Steve, we gotta have a group hug. You can't do this and let the Democrats. No. We're not having group hugs. We're not having pats on the head. You got to get this straight. First off, you got to get, hey, I've said many times that Elon came and Elon's money helped organize the grassroots effort. In his engineering mind, he saw what the problem was as we saw it, and he supported it. And for that, he gets a place at the table. There's no doubt. You should. It's $250 million in June, not an entire cycle, in 5 months. But that dinner with Sachs and that check from Elon came at Biden's, when Biden, in the debate or right before the debate, and Biden, they kind of saw the numbers of where this thing was heading. They're recent converts, and we love converts. Hell, I'm a Catholic. We used to be in the convert business. Not so much anymore. We can't keep what we got. But in the old days, half the saints are missionaries. We love in converts. But the converts sit in the back and study for years and years and years to make sure you understand the faith and you understand the nuances of the faith and understand how you can internalize the faith. Don't come up and go to the pulpit in your first week here and start lecturing people about the way things are going to be. If you're going to do that, we're going to rip your face off.
Ooh.
Because you can't beat us. We're not beatable. This army of the awakened is not beatable because we're relentless, and we will never surrender, and we will never slow down. And yes, if you go low, we'll go to the center of the earth. Because we're fighting for something that means something. Yeah. We have meaning in this. This is why people watch this show. This is why people come to this show and all this great content people provide us. And Ben Bergquam's down now, putting his life in danger again. Why do people do this? Why have they done this for years? Why did they do it for years at Breitbart? What Trump?
So, it's basically going on about how Elon is sort of Johnny-come-lately to the movement. And I think there's a certain kind of resentment there. I bring that up. Listen, Steve's great. And what he's been able to build, much like, what we've been able to build here, I think is just based on authenticity, on truth and conviction, right? That we share mutually. And so I don't doubt any of that. on his part for 2 seconds. But I think that there's some like tension there in terms of what Elon was trying to do, and perhaps even the proximity and the closeness and the influence he might have had on Donald Trump. And so I bring it up just to say that it's not just, say, like never Trumpers that you might have wandering the hallways at the White House, but you have people that actually really do believe in this movement that may not have been too thrilled about Elon being there, even for all the success and the wins that he's been able to have. And so when that news got leaked out, it may have been leaked out with people who actually do have good intentions for the president. I still get back to square one, however, which is that you've got to batten down the hatches and you've got to communicate to your team, you know what, this is not acceptable. And we're going to make sure that it's not acceptable because we're going to purge ourselves of anybody who's not loyal and who doesn't actually stick with the program, which means if your boss tells you something confidentially, guess what? That is confidential information, not to be shared with anyone, not to be shared with other reporters or podcasters or even people in the movement. At that point, you really need to respect the office. And so that's where we are right now. And I think Donald Trump is now saying, okay, I need to shore this all up. This means I need a new head of my NSA. I need new people on the NSC staff. And I think you're going to see more and more and more. I'm curious to see what it is that Elon Musk has discovered, you guys. Any idea? Anybody want to hypothesize about that? Make sure you subscribe. Listen, we're here. This show is growing. It's amazing to me. Just amazing. If anybody had said, you know, Trish, if you just start doing a show every day, you know, people will come and they will listen and they will watch and they will be part of this tremendous community. I didn't really understand it, right? Because I came from the television world and all I knew was I needed to be on a better number on the dial because people would say to me, Fox Business, where do I find that? Well, that doesn't even matter these days because all you do is type in where you want to go, much like here. And so you want to see Trish, you type in the Trish Regan channel and we got content coming out all day long and coming for you all weekend long. And I do this show live every day, no matter where I am in the world, because I care. I care about you. I care about our country. I care about our children and their future. This is my passion, much like it is Steve's. And I think that's what resonates in this sort of new media environment, if you would, less so the traditional networks, the networks that have everything so tightly scripted and so tightly wound. So it is great to see you, and make sure if you haven't subscribed that you do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell because we're working on a time, a solid time. We're shooting for 2 p.m. What do you guys think of that? 2 p.m. seems like a good time. You know, the kids aren't home from school just yet. It's better than being here all Friday night, right? Spirit-filled. Really and truly appreciate the generosity. Thank you so much for everything you do for this channel, for all of you guys, for all of our team members here on the Trish Regan Show. We really appreciate you. And, you know, when I say that I do this because I care, I'm not kidding. And I have been telling like everyone that has the sort of bandwidth to be able to invest. And when I say bandwidth, I don't even mean money. I mean time, right? So if you have time and you don't need however much money over the next however many years, right? The longer your time horizon, the better. But if you got 3 to 5 years, I got to believe that we're going to be in a better place 3 years from now than where we are today, because this market just got killed. And you've got to understand, as I so well do, the media pile-on effect, the reality of fear. I'm looking at something called the VIX index. It's at 45 today. I mean, that's really unusual to see the VIX at 45. That does not happen a lot. If I go back in time, I'll have to check these numbers, but if I go back to sort of those dark days of March 2020, you might have seen the VIX getting into the 60s. But for us to be at 45, that's a really, really big deal. And it's possible that this sell-off goes off into next week. We shall see. Bitcoin, interestingly, kind of held up, which is kind of just an interesting data point. We can talk about it some more next week. But I think that this is one of those opportune moments. I think about the year 2000. I think about 2008. I think about 2020. And I think about 2025. And so if you have anything on the sidelines that you don't need, I'm telling you, I mean, if nothing else, get yourself some broad exposure to the indices. You can do that pretty easily. You can trade for no cost these days and buy it and hold it. because you believe in America, like me, I hope, and you're not going to bet against this president or against this country, which is exactly what the left is trying to do, right? Like they don't love Trump, they don't love America, and they're like, oh, it's all going to HELL. I don't think it is. Investinmaga.com, that's our free newsletter. Go check that out. Do that over the weekend if you can. If you're more ready to invest, go check out the portfolios there at 76portfolios.com or 76research.com. We got 3 of them for you, and I want to thank you again for being part of this movement here together with me. It is wonderful to see you. We'll catch up again live on Monday.